Hey there, it's Jimmy with Schmancy Wino. That's Jimmy, not James. James is at home. Given that it's almost 8 o'clock at night, he is probably, he's probably going to bed. You know how the elderly are. Us young folks are going to stay up and drink. And as I mentioned last week, we'd be drinking some sparkling red. Sparkling red, I haven't had any of it until a few months ago, 6 months ago or something like that. And it's kind of funky and I kind of liked it. It's fun. It's not just that it's champagne made with red grapes, or, champagne style, sparkling wine with red grapes. Because champagne itself, as you probably know, 2 out of the 3 grapes that go into it are actually red grapes. They just haven't imparted the color onto the take from this crushed right away. Or pressed right away, I should say. Sparkling reds, when you hear the phrase sparkling red, they mean that it's actually a red wine. I mean, it looks like a red wine, it poured in the glass. It's a red wine made with red grapes, but with bubbles. The one that we're having today is an Australian Shiraz, and Australian sparkling Shiraz is pretty popular there. So I hear. I've never actually been there, but that's the impression I get from the reading I've done. And by reading I've done, I mean I Googled it. So, we're going to have some Black Bubbles by Shingleback. Sparkling Shiraz. No vintage, which is pretty common on these. I believe this retails for $25 or so. I got it on clearance at the grocery store for $17.59. So, experimenting on a budget. Do I need to tell you anything else about this? No. It's a red wine with bubbles. Let's drink it. I have had a glass earlier, as per usual. It is nice froth. Kind of I'm going to say a magenta foam that you get on there. Quite pleasant to the nose, though. Very fruity. Color-wise, that is a deep dark ruby. Yeah, with deep dark ruby with some kind of purplish bubbles. Not that the color of the bubbles matters to me at all, but just so you know, that's what I'm looking at. Give it a sniff. Lots of fruit. Obviously red fruit, black fruit. There's also I'm gonna say a anise or licorice kind of thing going on there, but it's real light, and I don't like black licorice, so it would be a turnoff if it was strong, but it's not. It's pretty small, pretty small component of the smell. Very fruity though, just nondescript red and black fruit. Let's give it a taste. Kind of hard to swish with a sparkling wine. That's good. Yeah, that's really nice. So, black cherry. That is, I do get a little bit of the anise, but boy, it's real subtle. So even if you don't like that particular flavor, I don't think it's gonna be problematic for you. And some dark chocolate, but because of the effervescence, the bubbles in there, it's an interesting kind of chocolatey thing going on in there. Really concentrated fruit, though. I'm going to say like a compote, or I had, I don't remember when it was, year ago or something like that. I had a really good blackberry, what they call it, a crumble or something like that. We look kind of like a, I think it's called a crumble. Anyway, really intense, rich blackberry flavor, and this has that, which is kind of nice. I think it's when we get to talking about pairing, that's going to be interesting. And the finish is the finish dries out, kind of lingers, and it has the chocolatey vibe going on the finish, like a dark chocolate though, not particularly creamy. Nice though. Yeah. Very unique, not super duper complex, that's, if there was ever a criticism on sparkling reds, apparently that's the one that comes through for people, is that they're not particularly complex wines. I dig it though. Very fun drink. I'm gonna give it a really torn on this one between a B plus and an A minus. I think if I had, which I don't happen to have in front of me, but if I had some rich cheeses or maybe some sort of dark chocolate with it, might bring it out a little bit more. Might make me lean towards the A minus. By itself as like an aperitif, B plus. Again, I know that's not how normal people rate wines, is with letter grades and then changing the grade depending on what you have it with, but you get what you get with me. B plus, A minus, fun wine. I would think that if you've never had a sparkling red, this would probably be a good one to try. It would be hard for me to imagine that you wouldn't like it unless you just don't like... if you don't like red wine at all, you still have a little bit of, you just still have tannins and whatnot. You still have some red wine flavor. So if you don't like that, you're probably not going to like this. But if you like that at all, give it a try. It's kind of a fun alternative for a sparkling wine. And I think if I was going to have a like a New Year's Eve party and I wanted some other options other than just traditional, sparkling wine or champagne or whatever, I would throw some of this in the mix there and give this as an option for people, especially folks that don't like champagne, which can be kind of dry. It is dry. It can be sort of off-putting if you're not a fan. I don't think that this is the case with this one. I'd be very surprised if somebody likes wine at all and doesn't at least like this a little bit. So, that said, I don't know what we're trying next week, so I can't give you a hint on that. But I can tell you I'm going to drink some more of this. I'm probably going to raid my refrigerator and see if I've got some cheese that might go with this. And until then, thank you. Cheers. Buy some red bubbles.
Okay, so you've been watching for a few minutes, so I don't need to tell you you're watching Fancy Schmancy Wino. I also don't need to tell you I'm James. Jimmy already covered that for you. He's back in Seattle where, as you know, he's making up stories about things that I'm doing or drinking or not doing or not drinking. Well, we're here to drink some wine. I think a few minutes ago he talked to you a lot about a neat sparkling red, specifically I think a Shiraz. As we've covered before, oftentimes in different parts of the country you can't get the same wines. And so the wine that he has there is unique to that market or that distributor, not something we can get here. So I thought it'd be fun to maybe cover more of a mass market sparkling red. We're coming into the holiday season. Christmas is just a week away. We're going to have the New Year parties and all the celebrations and galas and such. And so to have some nice options around. If you watched a couple weeks ago, Jason Forbes from the Wine Gallery talked about at the time of the dropping of the ball at the party, that it's not about having just that one sparkling or that one Prosecco or champagne that you think is great and making everybody drink it or dump it out, as the case may be, but to have options that people enjoy. And so tonight we're going to try the sparkling red from Cupcake. If you've seen Cupcake in the store, they're very much a mass market wine that's available in virtually every grocery store across the country. And when I say mass market, that's not a bad thing. It's just readily available. It's very affordable, oftentimes in that $8, $10, $12, $15 range, so anyone can have access to it. And they've specialized in flavors and tastes and blends that are just very consumer friendly. The average wine drinker can enjoy it. You've seen some of the wines we've tasted before. There's some that it's unique, it's rich, it's dark, it's heavy, it fits a certain palate, or it's expensive, and without knowing what you're doing, you're maybe wasting a few dollars. And so Cupcake really is that wine for all of us. They don't grow, as far as I know, their own grapes, but rather source from Italy and California and just several great places around the world to get some of the best grapes for what they want to do, for what they want to create. They've got their own winemakers with legitimate experience, legitimate education. So sometimes we're maybe inclined to look down upon the mass market wines, but there's a lot to be said for them. And Cupcake certainly falls in that category. So whereas the Champagne is the Pinot Noir and the Chardonnay grapes, maybe Pinot Meunier, Prosecco and Cava each have their own grapes based off of that part of the country. This one is maybe a little more unique in fact that it's got two grapes that maybe you don't always think of. One, I think you do, Moscato. Many of us are familiar with Moscato d'Asti, but also the Braccetto grape. And so bringing together these two Italian grapes into this one sparkling wine potentially could make for not just a great sparkler, but also something that's pretty, would look great on the table, look great at the party. And so rather than waste any more of your time, let's go ahead and jump right into Cupcake's Sparkling Red. Well, if you remember from my video a couple weeks ago when I had the Oliver's Bubblecraft, which wasn't that bubbly, this is much more what you'd expect from a sparkling wine. Something that's going to just bubble up, look great. While we're tasting in a bigger glass, it's maybe a little easier for this video. Get yourself some nice champagne glasses. It's going to look pretty. It's got that nice, I kind of want to say a cranberry look to it. It's red, but it's not a rosé red, nor is it like a Cabernet. It's just got that middle of the road cranberry-like look. Very pretty with the white bubbles on top. I think when you smell it, you're going to get kind of that sense of the Moscato grape, but also I think maybe some black cherry, maybe strawberry as far as the scent goes. I mean, it's floral, it's pretty. I mean, it smells good. Sometimes sparkling wines, especially if there's really a lot of bubbles, you don't get anything beyond the carbon dioxide coming off or from the bubbles. In this case, they're not overwhelming. You're still getting the fragrance of the grape, and so I think you're going to like the smell. I'm reminded a little bit of maybe a stronger rosé. But let's not waste any more time. I mean, New Year's right around the corner, so cheers. So nowhere near as sweet as the Bubblecraft I had a couple weeks ago, and again, nothing against sweet wine. People love sweet wines, but definitely this is definitely a sweet wine. You get the Moscato. I think the combination of the two grapes brings out, I want to say that strawberry flavor for me. So maybe the acidity reminds me just a little bit of cranberry, but certainly reminiscent of Moscato. So if you've got friends and family coming over for the holidays that are big fans of Moscato d'Asti, I think you're going to be able to serve this to them. It's going to fit right in with what their palate's expecting, but a beautiful color. Pretty much anything you drink a Moscato with would be good. So some people like sweet with a spicy food. I'm picturing New Year's Eve, Christmas, having this maybe before the meal with some cheese, some meats, and it just would be a nice flavorful mixture. With dessert would work as well. But again, back to, as we think about the New Year's Eve party and the dropping of the ball, to not just have that one champagne that you love that's super dry that maybe everybody can't get into, this might be another one to have on the table to give people some options. And the nice thing is, at this price point, easy to afford to have a couple bottles of it around. People are going to drink it. It's enjoyable. It's sweet. It's just a fun wine. And really, when we talk about Christmas, New Year's Eve, that's really what we're getting at. It's just a good time with family. And so whereas maybe it's not normally your cup of tea, maybe you really want the dry champagne. I love dry champagne. This is going to be a nice sparkler for many of your friends and family who need just a little more sweetness. Not syrupy, not like a super sweet Riesling or dessert wine by any means, but sweet enough to be enjoyable with the bubbles of a sparkler. So this is probably our last video for this year. Glad you guys have tuned in. As we head into the new year, we got some fun ideas. Hopefully you'll continue to learn something. More importantly, have some fun, drink some wine. So for Fancy Schmancy Wino, I'm James. Cheers.